What's up, Bears fans? Your boy Coach T with Chicago Bears 360 back with another live show for you today. We got a hot one. We got our guest, my guy from the Barroom Network, Danny Shimon. Timing in today. He's going to basically bring us up to speed on the draft. You know what I'm saying? Danny does that work. He puts in the work. You know what I'm saying? Scouting players pre-draft, East-West Shrine Game, Senior Bowl. Long before that, he has I'll let him bring you up to speed on his show that he does, his special he does pre-draft every year. So this is a trusted resource as to who's out there, who's potentially, in a target for the Bears coming into it. We're going to get into that and so much more. Y'all know what's next. Let's cue the intro. S Dizzle, let's go.
Life like chess, move to pieces, you know I roll in silence. On the road to them Benjis, I fill my teeth with diamonds. I'm high as fuck in the sky, you would've thought I'm pilot. I'm from Chicago, it get ugly, fill the streets with violence. Life like chess, move to pieces, you know I roll in silence.
Past, present, future. We bear down.
And just like that, we're back, Bears fans. Past, present, or future, we bear down. Listen, do me a favor as y'all come in. Do me a favor, run the likes up, run the chats up. If you watch this on the playback, subscribe to the channel, man. We got that hot, you know what I'm saying? We got that hot content for you. I would like to welcome to the program my guy, Danny Shimon. What's up, dude?
What's up, man? How are you? It's been a while since we talked.
Yeah, it's been a while. We the season ended, man. Danny went to go scout Bears, potential players for the Bears, scout the draft, doing all that stuff, man. I've been hanging out. I don't know what I've been doing, having guests. I don't know. I've just been trying to get through the off season, man. It's that work y'all do. I gotta admit that's not my thing. So I can't wait.
I see you're busy on Twitter, man, going back and forth with people. What are you doing?
I gotta keep myself entertained, man. Sometimes I want to engage, sometimes I don't, man. It's just
the coach's going at it today, man. No hold back today.
Hey, depends how I feel that day, man. You know how I go. It's
man, part two, man. You have the patience. I don't have some of the patience for some of the things you put up with, man. But
yeah, no, it's it's part of the game, man. You put yourself out there on Bears Twitter, you become a target. You know what I'm saying? Of course, everybody's spinning the block because the Justin Fields, us supporting Justin Fields here, Chicago Bears 360. Of course, it didn't work out that way. And I want to get into some of that stuff before we get into the draft. And I definitely want you to plug yourself, the program, that's the special you do on the Barroom Network as far as the draft and build up to the draft and all that stuff. Because I know, again, Danny's one of those guys that put in the work in the film and get into the nit noise of these players to really see who they are as a player on the field, off the field, all that good stuff. But I know the chat, some of the Caleb people don't want to hear this, but it's been, like you said, it's been a while since we spoke, and I want to get your take on how kind of this offseason has transpired for you. Of course, we thought, a lot of people thought the logical move was hold on to Justin, but here we are, man. Brian Poles, I think, he did, as he said, he went with his gut, and now we're here. So how did that play out for you? I want to get your perspective since we hadn't spoken for a while.
Yeah, I mean, as you and I, people don't know, Coach T and I do a post-game show on the Barroom Network, and he and I were both on the same page in terms of, a lot of the things with Justin we saw. It was a perfect no, but we saw positive steps. We saw growth in the young man, and a guy that came in with barely nothing around him, carried that team for the first couple seasons and a half on his shoulder in terms of offensively. Whatever production was done, it was done because of Justin. And I don't think it was given a fair shake, to be honest with you. And I think you and I both agreed the offensive staff last year was subpar at best. Some of the things we broke down post game, we couldn't understand in terms of why that they would go away from Justin's strengths, they would go away from the running game, so on and so forth. But like you said, that's water under the bridge. That's already moved on. The one thing that I am ecstatic about is I am so happy for Justin because he ended up with the right fit, the right organization. he ended up with the offensive coordinator that I wanted the Bears to hire once they fired Luke Getsy was Arthur Smith. And you and I think we're going to agree on this is Arthur Smith builds his offense around a powerful running attack, right?
Right.
He builds it about the 12, 13-man personnel. He pounds it, and then he uses play action, and he goes deep. Those are all Justin Fields' strengths. And I think utilizing Justin in the proper way, with a good organization like the Steelers, a team organization that knows how to win, with a great coach, so you have leadership up from top to bottom. It's steady. There's no firing here or a new coordinator here, a new head coach here and there and all that stuff. So, they're lacking some talent on the outside. I know obviously with the trade of Deontay Johnson, I do expect them to go on and make a couple of picks here. And there's a deep receiver draft and kind of supplement that there as well. But I love the fact that Justin landed with Pittsburgh. And I think, I know, they say that Russell Wilson will go in as a starter by week 3 or week 4, trust me, Justin Fields will, if not sooner, will have taken over that starting job, and the Bears will eventually get a 4th-round pick back from the Steelers. But just happy for Justin. I think now he's got a chance to flourish and let his career take a next step with an offensive coordinator that's going to build an offense around him. Heck, he made Ryan Tannehill a Pro Bowl quarterback, Arthur Smith, that is. So I think he's going to do wonders for Justin and just can build that. Again, organization knows how to win, great defense, so on and so forth. So first and foremost, happy as heck for Justin Fields.
Yeah, I think that was that's the resolve. And you know what I'm saying? Me and Julius were talking earlier today, my producer, and we were talking about, it's weird to us, right? People who, are on either side of the quote unquote war, now can't get over the fact that, okay, Bears fans have accepted, the situation and Justin's gone. You know what I'm saying? I'm excited about Caleb. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not so much worried about Caleb in this first season, who he's going to be. I believe I know who he is. I'm concerned about what we're bringing and basically the program we have around him. I'm going to be looking at everybody else first as a lesson learned from Luke Getsy, right? Because Luke came in and we kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt coming from Green Bay, all that other stuff. But I think it's kind of weird that people can't, they can't accept that, even Justin people that supported him have moved on. We're very cognizant of the situation right now, and we're supportive of Cable, but maybe looking at it from different angles. How are you feeling about, what's looking like it's going to be, the number 1 pick in Caleb Williams? And what's your scouting report on him? Like, I know we spoke about it. We spoke about it not in depth during the season and during the show on the bar room. Shout out to Aldo, by the way. But what's your in-depth scouting report on Caleb?
Well, for Caleb, obviously it's been 2 years now. I mean, ever since actually I was thinking back, 3 years, ever since he hit the field in Oklahoma, where he basically took Spencer Rattler, who was a highly recruited, a quarterback, and basically put him on the bench, took over Oklahoma there. And you saw some of the big play potential with Caleb and some of the things he could do with his arms and with his feet. Obviously, then he followed Lincoln Riley to USC. And the last couple seasons, he has been just in terms of production and won the Heisman Trophy 2 years ago. So, he's high quality production, all that stuff. This year, there are some concerns in terms of him, playing within the offense, playing on rhythm, playing on timing. A lot of things that people were complaining about Justin Fields, and I saw a lot of that stuff on his 2023 film. Now he did lose, Addison, the receiver. He ended up going in the first round to the Vikings, so he did lose some weapons on the outside. Incorporated, Brendan Rice, Jerry Rice's son, and then obviously Taj Washington was the other, big weapon there as well. A guy I really like in the later rounds of the draft. But I think, for me, if you're asking me the actual, scouting report, obviously the highlight reel, player, he's a guy that when I scout, I say, all right, I put the tape on, I watch multiple games, and I say, all right, let me see if I see any wow moments. And if I see the wow moments, the flash moments, I grade those, and then how great are those? And then now, do I see them consistently? And that's the one thing with Caleb is you see wow, flash, big time plays after big time plays. Now, I'm not saying there aren't some plays that are concerning. I'm not saying there are some reads that are concerning. I'm not saying there are some decision making that are concerning. His inability to hold on to the football is something that's got to be worked on. That's something that he has to kind of get buried. I think 33 fumbles over the last couple of seasons at USC. So got to work on that there, right? But I mean, his off-platform throws, everyone talks about that, right? His ability to be able to, get out of the pocket, escape pressure, and then, his release for me is what makes it elite, right? And then an ability to bring the ball down by his thigh, and all of a sudden, next thing he's whipping it down the field accurately,
Right.
30, 40 downs and off balance. So those are special kind of moments. Those are like, holy crap. I mean, I watched about 7-8 games of Caleb, both 2022 and 2023 film, and there wasn't a game where I'm like, how do you make that throw? Like, how do you get it there? Like, how is that on target? But I have to caution you guys. A lot of this stuff has been talked about him being generational, and he's going to come in here and be rookie of the year. Like, let's just pump the brakes on that. He's going to be a rookie, right? There's going to be things where he's got to work on, and we talked about it earlier. I think I've seen you mention some things on Twitter as well. Working within the structure of the offense, right? Timing, getting the ball out. There's times where I watch his USC tapes and there's a guy coming across the middle. He just doesn't pull the trigger on it. He sees him, but he doesn't pull the trigger on it. Instead he holds it and tries to bail out, make a little bigger play. Might take a loss or might just throw the ball away. So I'm like, all right, why didn't you just take that 5-yard in route or that 7-yard, slant route? So those things he's going to have to work on. That's where Shane Waldron, the new offensive coordinator, and then obviously Thomas Brown, the passing game coordinator, have to come in and kind of coach him up and work him on that. You got to teach him, hey, this is the NFL. Guys are bigger, faster, quicker. Hold on to the ball for that long is not going to work here at this league. You got to get rid of the ball, got to get rid of it quickly. At that time, just take the check down, take the 5 or 6 yards, and let's move on to the next down. So those are things he's going to have to coach him up at. But talk about talent, terrific arm talent. We talked about his mobility. He's got good pocket sense, has a good in terms of sense when the pressure is coming from, where it's coming from, has an innate ability to be able to kind of duck and juke and make the first guy miss in the pocket in her backfield and get out by some time. But he doesn't like to run. That's the thing about him is we see a lot of highlights with him running with the ball. He'll do it if he has to, but he likes to just kind of escape pressure, get out in the field or break away from the tackle box and look downfield and try and make a throw. So that's the one thing you'll probably notice different between him and Justin. Justin started doing a little bit of that toward the tail end of last year, but initially Justin was like, if he got out of the pocket, I got away from pressure, he was tucking the ball and was running. Caleb won't do that. Caleb's going to try and make a play with his arm and throw the ball downfield. If he has to run, he'll run. But yeah, I mean, for me, like I know that the big debate now is with the big 3 quarterbacks. Is it Caleb? Is it Jaden Daniels? Is it Drake May? For me, it's not close. It's Caleb. Jaden Daniels is second. Initially, when I started the process of breaking down the tape, it was to me it was Caleb and it was Jaden Daniels, and Drake May was third. But as I started watching the tapes, I started kind of going through all the positives and everything like that. You can see the difference between Caleb and between Jaden. And you mentioned, I talked about him during the season last year. Beginning of last year, prior to the college football season, we were talking about the quarterbacks in this draft, and I said, the one thing about Caleb, there is no doubt from the scouting community about his talent. This talent is on film. They know what he can do on the football field. The questions about Caleb were off the football field, right? There are talks about, is he a me guy instead of a we guy? There's all that body language stuff on the sidelines. There's all the thing obviously with the ping the nails and the FU to Notre Dame kind of stuff rub people the wrong way.
Yeah.
But he's just a different character. He's more of a outgoing. Yeah. Justin was more of a laid back reserve guy. Justin never tweeted other than some promotional thing, maybe that, some of his PR team tweeted off under his name, or his account. But Caleb's going to be out there. Caleb's going to fight back. He's going to bite back. You've seen a couple of it already. Some guy put something out there. Caleb has no problem with packager. So he's going to be a guy that's going to defend himself, and he's going to be out there. And that's the one thing is, this is where Ryan Poles and his his team's gonna have to go through this pre-draft process and just kind of sit down with the kid, get a better understanding of the character. Now, I was told by a scout as this process started who was out there at USC, that there was like a bunch of scouts out there. I believe it was like middle of October, and Caleb walked in unannounced or anything, just walked in and said, "Hey, I just want to let everybody know the things you hear about me out in the media. If it doesn't come from my mouth and you don't see me being quoted like directly from it, it's not me." So because a lot of stuff was coming out in terms of, this guy wants part ownership of the team if he's going to go to it first overall, all that stuff. And a lot of it, he's just kind of clearing up with the scouts saying, listen, if it doesn't come from me, it's not me. Right. So just kind of a heads up to the scouts. And I think that was something that the scouts started to kind of, all right, so let's dig into them now. And then now the postseason started. And everything else, digging in and the whole draft process. So it's obvious Ryan Poles and Eberflus and everybody else is comfortable with Caleb as the person, as a face of the franchise. and he's going to be the first overall pick. But talent wise, there's no the one thing, like I said about earlier, and some concerns I have is the ball security in the pocket, and also on just when he's running around with the football. The other thing is the height. I love guys that I love the Drake May types, right? The 6'4", 6'5", big guys, 230 pounds with the big arms. Caleb is about almost 6'2", almost like 6 feet, I believe, in 7/8 or something like. It's almost 6'1", right? So he's smaller than the other guys, but he's well proportioned in terms of his body. His lower, he's got a strong lower body as well. So I think that should be, and then the arm angle ability to be able to. One of the reasons why I like the bigger, taller quarterbacks is just being able to see through over the offensive line, defensive line, and also be able to find passing lanes and passing windows through all those big bodies. But the thing about Caleb, you'll notice, is his arm angle, his ability to throw from different arm angles. I mean, it doesn't matter who or where. So he makes and he manufactures passing windows. So some of that height concern for me that I typically have with shorter quarterbacks is alleviated when I watch Caleb Williams and I break down his tape.
Listen, don't get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? Danny's definitely plugged into the scouting community. Danny, I get a lot of criticism because people think I don't bring people on the shows that we disagree. Danny and I would disagree on Barroom Network on Sunday, so I don't want y'all to get it twisted. You know what I'm saying? We just you know what I'm saying, we have moments where we agree, we disagree, and we agree mostly on Caleb. The only thing that I'm looking out for, Danny, that I was concerned about, and I actually spoke to Brendan Rice about this in Mobile, just kind of get it from his perspective. It's not playing in structure for Caleb, and my audience knows this. It's not about playing in structure, because I believe air raid RPO system is a structure. You do what the system calls for you to do. It's what your coordinator asks you to do. So it's not a criticism of Caleb, right? It's like it's more or less a criticism of your resume, if that makes sense. So if I look down and I have a job description, and on that job description, I know you can do something in the vicinity, but it doesn't necessarily, it's not bulletized, it's not itemized, right? So the audience knows where I'm going with this. My take is not his ability to play in structure. My concern is not ability to play in structure. It's, hey, Lincoln Riley asked in the air raid system, asked you to do RPO 75% of the time, right? How is Shane Waldron going to assimilate you into a full read progression offense, right? And so if you look at, and this is what I brought up to Brendan, right, when I asked him the question, right, kind of to stomp him. But, if you look at Jayden's tape, 90% of his dropbacks they're asking him to go through full progression reads. Now, he doesn't go through number 4 and number 5 all the time, but what they're asking him to do is different. What they asked Caleb to do 75% of the time was to go, hey, do the zone read and throw it. Read number 1, get the ball out. And that's where the running comes from, because if read number 1 is not there, read number 2 is not there, it's designing that offense for you to throw the ball to a check down or take off running. So that's my concern. And it's not a concern for Caleb. It's a concern for Shane. How are you going to, what he is. How are you going to take that and say, okay, we're going to start you out here with what you're familiar with, and then we're going to slowly, progressively, ramp you into who we want you to become. So that's really the perspective. That's the take on it. You said so much, Danny, that I didn't get a chance to ask you about it, but also about the character stuff. I didn't care about so much because it was like, man, I didn't paint the nails. Come on, man. Like, bro, you could listen. This is just where it's 2024. As long as you're a good leader of men, you know what I'm saying, you can command the respect of the locker room. I just didn't have a whole lot of, and I still don't feel any kind of way about, call it a dress, call it painted nails, whatever that is. But you make a great point. Caleb is going to be, he got good clapback game. We see that already. Like, Twitter clapback game is definitely on point. I think it's going to be entertainment. It's going to be interesting. And you know what I'm saying? Let's call it what it is. For Chicago, do we really want a dude that's going to, be, laid back, reserved? I don't know. I think the personality, depending on how he's able to manage it, it fits, right? But let's get into this draft real fast. I want to shift gears, right? Because obviously at number 1, we go Caleb. I want to know your perspective on the number 9 pick, because I think that's going to be the linchpin. That's going to be the swing point, right? And what do you think Ryan Poles should do there? And who are you looking at? Like, because we'll segue into like position groups and start, making our way through the different position groups. So what do you think we do at number 9? And, because I think this roster still needs a lot of work. You know what I'm saying? If it's not depth at certain positions, we still need dogs in other positions. So
yep.
Give me your outlook on taking us to number 9 and what we do from there.
Yeah, for me, obviously, you know me, and I love picks, and the fact they only have 4 picks in a draft that's deep in receiver, deep in interior and offensive lineman, deep in some defensive spots there as well, where they need some help, bothers me, and that's just the scouting me, and I just want more shots at the apple. I want to be able to pick players in multiple rounds. So the one thing that I'm just kind of talking to some of the people in the scouting community is like, this year's draft is more top heavy because a lot of the players who took advantage of the COVID year stayed for an extra year in college.
Right.
So it's a lot of the 6-7 round guys that usually teams are jockeying for those picks to get these late round gems. A lot of those guys have kind of stayed in class, and I think this is going to be a top heavy draft, meaning 4 maybe 5 rounds is where you're going to have a chance to get some real guys, and then the 6th, 7th round, they're going to be talking about guys that they had as priority free agents on their list. So they're going to be like, even the Ravens came out and said, Eric DeCosta said, he's got 2 7-round picks, but he's looking to up those maybe to combine them with another pick and move up maybe a round or 2 because of the fact that he's going to be looking at probably priority free agents in that 7th round. So the main thing is that you only have 4 picks, and if Ryan Poles, we know he's done. He's always likes to move. A lot of times moves back, sometimes moves up. So my thing is if you're going to move and gain some draft capital, it's got to be at number 9, right? So the question that's going to face him is, all right, if Rome Odunze is sitting out there at number 9, or
right.
If John Alt or Joe Alt is sitting out there at number 9, a potential starting left tackle could flip to right side as well. Those guys that I have, as blue chip players on my board, what do you do, right? Do you just take Caleb and take Roman Dunze, say, all right, I'm good here, I'll just see what happens in the later rounds, or you try and fill a need? But that's the thing. Who's going to come up? Now I've heard rumors about Buffalo looking, trying to move up there from back from 28 to trying to get up to number 9 to fill that need with Stephon Diggs now. Yeah. So Roman Dunze or Malik Neighbors, if those guys are there, that's something they're looking for. So obviously you're looking at multiple picks in this draft. You're looking at a 1st round pick next year. If Buffalo's going to make that jump from 28 to 9, you got to see what's out there. A team to keep an eye on is the Saints. Saints said, I believe at 14, they have, their tackles are in bad shape right now. Offensive tackles, their left tackle Penning has been pretty much a bust. The right tackle Ryan Ramczyk, who's been a Pro Bowler, he's got this injury that they don't know if he's going to play at all next season. So they need tackle. So I think the tackle run could start at number 9. Obviously, I think whoever goes, if 4 quarterbacks go in the first 6 picks, now you're going to have to start looking at the Chargers at 5 could do a tackle, or they could trade back, or they could do a receiver. But I think that the big tackle run's going to start at number 9, and I think the Saints could look to move up there with the Bears and jump the Jets and other teams that could be looking for offensive linemen. So those are a couple of scenarios that could play out, but who knows what's going on in terms of what team is targeting what player. And that's the thing, is that Ryan Poles is going to sit there and say, all right, do I sit there and take my other blue chip player like a Roman Dunze or an Alt, or do I take a JC Latham or a right tackle? I know you love offensive linemen like I do, and I think a guy like JC Latham for me is a guy, you plug him in at right tackle, you kick Darnell right to right guard, and you have a powerful stacked right side of the offensive line. The left side can have Tevin Jenkins and Braxton Jones, and now you got a couple guys in the middle in terms of centers. I think you have a nice solid formation there, a nice solid forming of an offensive line. So depends who's there. But for me personally, if you're asking me, if Roma Dunze is there, I grab him and I just go. I grab him and I go because now you've given your new quarterback, presumably Caleb Williams, you've given him a DJ Moore, you've given him a Roman Dunze, and he's got the veteran there with the guy that just got from the Chargers, Keenan Allen. Sorry,
Yeah.
but Keenan Allen is 31 years old, going to be 32 when the season starts. Keenan Allen's
Right.
missed 11 games the last 2 years. Keenan Allen's going to a free agent year, so there's nothing that's going to
Guaranteed.
tell you that they're going to keep him behind the season. So, but you're bringing out Rome Odunze here that you have his basically his fill-in for next year. So if Keenan Allen decides to leave, you can maybe possibly get a comp pick for that. And now you can kick Rome Odunze in at that second, receiver. Perfect complement to DJ Moore. DJ's a Z. Rome Odunze is your X, and you're ready to go there. So and then you fill in with the tight ends and all that stuff. But if Rome Odunze gone, if Marvin Harrison Jr. is gone, if Alt's gone, it's either going to be offensive tackle for me or trade down. If Malik Neighbors is there, I'm trying to trade out of there, or I'm trying to look see if I can get an offensive lineman.
Yeah, I like Rome as a player. I think, what I've said on the show is schematically with DJ and Rome, I try to go into Shane's head and say, what am I doing with those guys? And as from a defensive coordinator perspective, does that combination of receivers along with the guys we have, considering if we keep those guys, what scares me out of what I like to do? If I like to go single high safety, which I'm told this coordinator at Green Bay that's coming from Boston College likes to do. He likes to go a lot of single high safety, sim pressure, right? I talked to Elijah. What's the cornerback from Boston? Like Elijah Price. I spoke to him and I said, hey, what did he like to do out there? And he was just spilling the beans. Hey, single high safety, send pressure. You know what I'm saying? He's going to sim a lot. He's not going to send it, but he likes to play one high. Okay, if you like to do that, that means you're going to have an 8-man box. They're probably going to try and stack the box against us. And that would make it a contest. But if I can force them out of that crap and scare them with a speedster back there, somebody that can go over the top, then it becomes a different strategic ball game, right? It becomes a chess match. And so for that, I'm like, does Rome really give me that, or does Malik give it, or does Brian Thomas Jr. give me that, right? That scare factor, or does Rome give me, hey, a Keenan Allen type that's going to make smart football plays, move the chains, make the big play when required, you know what I'm saying? Type of deal. What do you feel about that?
Well, for me, it's Marvin Harrison Jr. number 1 and Rome Odunze number 2, and that those are my top 2, and that's been the top 2 since I started this process and breaking this down. And with Rome Odunze, what it gives you, he ran a 4.45 40 at the combine. He's a guy that's got a 39-inch vertical. He's got 32 and a quarter inch arm length, so he has a huge catch radius, and he is one of the more physical receivers at the catch point. He's a guy that's got, a DB draped all over him, and he goes up and he'll make the catch. And for me, his comp, believe it or not, is Devontae Adams. And that's how I see Rome Odunze developing into that kind of a player. And his football character is off the charts. And this is a guy that wants to be great. And I think that's something that you just can't, kind of just bypass there. But again, 4.45, he's not the blazer that Malik Neighbors is. Malik Neighbors ran a 4.3 40 at his pro day. He's got the quick twitch fibers. He's the guy that can create separation. But again, for me, I go back to the tape, right? 2 years in a row, Rome Odunze had over 1,000 yards, average over 15.3 yards a catch 2 years ago, 12.8 last year, 7 touchdowns, 13 touchdowns, 20 touchdowns the last 2 seasons. This past year, Malik Neighbors blew up with 14 touchdowns and over, 1,400 yards. But previous to that, he was just, 7 touchdowns combined in the first 2 seasons. So he had him and Jane Daniels, and Brian Thomas, they all kind of blew up at LSU this past year. So for me, I just go back to the consistent production. That's why some people are saying Malik Neighbors is now better than Marvin Harrison. I'm like, come on, Marvin Harrison's been a first-round pick since the minute he stepped foot on Ohio State. So, that's like, you can't just bypass 3 years of tape and production, back-to-back years of 14 touchdowns. And this guy is the number 1 target of all defensive coordinators, and he still goes and produces. So this talk that, it's all this talk about, Malik Neighbors, to me, he's number 3, and he's number 3 way back behind Marvin Harrison and Rome Odunze. And I think Rome Odunze, like I say, comes in, gives you that three-hitter monster in terms of the receivers. You talked about, in terms of some of the coverages. Again, he's a guy that even if he's covered, he's open, because he's that kind of guy with the catch radius, with the physicality at the catch point. And again, he's not a blazer like a 4.35 blazer like a Malik Neighbors, but he's a 4.45 4.5 guy. He's a guy that gets downfield and he can make plays. And like I said, Devontae Adams is my comp for him. And if I have a chance to get a young Devontae Adams, I would not bypass that. If he's gone, because there's talk that he might be the first or second receiver taken, like, Giants, looking for Giants there, look possibly with Arizona. Who knows what the Chargers and my guy Jim Harbaugh is going to do there. But if those two guys are gone, Harrison and Rome Odunze, and if Neighbors left there, and I'm open for a trade. So if Buffalo wants to come up and give me 28, give me next year's first round pick, give me a second round pick this year and some other filler, let's talk Buffalo. So that's what I'll do. It all depends on who's left on the board.
Yeah, I think I'll default after that to, if we go to Rome Odunze route, then it becomes back to Shane again. What do you do with the speedsters we do have on that route? So because we do have an outlet, right? I'm not saying the guy they take at wide receiver has to be the blazer. We have a program, but we have speedsters that's unproven. You know what I'm saying? And whether they're just a runoff speedster guy or if they're a true threat, right, that can, make the safeties make the defensive coordinator do things he doesn't want to do. That becomes the question. You mentioned offensive line, and you kind of mentioned something I hadn't heard before. So you mentioned bringing Darnell Wright inside and going with like J.C. Latham at potentially right tackle. And what's your layout on the offensive line? Like, who do you like? What's the current? Because we need to. This is part of my concern too, right? For Caleb, in defense of Caleb already. Here it is. I see more question marks at the offensive line than I see exclamation marks yet again. And that's where the skepticism comes in in terms of what Ryan Ian is doing, right? That part could be, here we go again. So what's your outlook on the offensive line situation? Because you have a different, mix of it than, I've heard.
The way it's set up right now, it's currently Braxton Jones. And if they line up today, right? Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins on the left side. You have Ryan Bates, who they acquired for a first-round pick from Buffalo at center, and they have Nate Davis at right guard, and then Darnell Wright at right tackle. I'm not unhappy with Darnell Wright, and that's why my thing is that last game against Green Bay left a bad taste in my mouth with Nate Davis, and I know he had a rough year in terms of start of the season with family stuff, and then got a little bit, rough start, got a little bit better in the middle of the season, then obviously, tailed off towards the end of the year. I just, that really put a bad taste in my mouth. And I just think Nate Davis, to me, is a bad signing. It's turning out to be a bad signing. Some might say that's too early to give up him after 1 year. Maybe you're right, but I want to fortify this offensive line. Like you said, I don't want to happen to Caleb what happened to Justin, right? They to put Justin out there in front of a ragtag bunch of offensive linemen, gave him Byron Pringle and Dante Pettis as number one, number two receivers. All right, guy, let's show us what you can do.
Right.
Like that's not fair. Now, Caleb is already coming in here with obviously DJ Moore and Keenan Allen. He's got Cole Kmet. He's got Gerald Everett, who's I think is going to be an underrated signing in terms of a split tight end there. He's got a solid running game and he's got a solid formation of the offensive line. If you can fortify the offensive line. And I say J.C. Latham because he's my third overall offensive tackle. First is Joel, which I believe is going to go probably to Harbaugh at number 5 with the Chargers. Second guy is Fuaga from Oregon State. Now, I love Fuaga from Oregon State. He's quick as a cat off the line of scrimmage. He's played predominantly right tackle. He's mean. He's a mauler. He's a guy that could really get after you. But there are some times on his tape you watch him. Some speed, he struggled with speed a little bit, right? Something similar I saw with Darnell Wright last year when I was scouting him out of Tennessee. So, there's talk about he's got the shorter arms and he doesn't have the greatest arm length to Fuaga, that is. So let's talk about maybe his best position in the future could be a right guard. But I just love the kid. I love the mentality. I love the makeup. So he's my number 2 tackle. And third is J.C. Latham. J.C. Latham, when you put on the tape, he's a big, brawling and big man. But he's athletic as heck. He's got good feet. He's got his play predominantly right tackle at Alabama, but I truly do believe he could play left tackle because he's got that type of athleticism for a guy that's big. Another guy that shows some nastiness in him, he shows a mean streak. He'll go home and finish his blocks. I absolutely love that. If you plug him in, he's my third number 3 tackle. Some teams actually have him as the number 1 tackle, or number 2 tackle behind Joe Alt. So there's a lot of teams out there that love J.C. Latham. So you plug him in at right tackle. I kick in Darnell Wright at right guard because remember, Darnell Wright played left tackle, he played right tackle, and he played guard as well at Tennessee. So he's got some experience there kicking inside. I think now you fortify that offensive line with two young studs that can just be man movers at the line of scrimmage. A nice way to form your offensive running attack right behind those two big behemoths there. And now you have the two young guys on the other side with Braxton Jones and Tevin Jenkins, assuming Tevin Jenkins stays healthy. If you want to keep Nate Davis and make him your swing guard interior, that's fine as well. I know they signed some veteran offensive linemen that can be some swing backup players, so I think they've fortified their depth there as well. I like Coleman Shelton, or Shelton Coleman, the center they got from the Rams, a little bit more than Ryan Bates, but they're going to give Bates the opportunity to start there at center. But I think they have a good combo there at center that could kind of bypass if you have this kind of formation in terms of your offensive line. Now you're giving your quarterback a fair shot here in terms of dropping back and even giving your running game an opportunity to develop here. And in terms of Shane Waldron, I think you and I both agreed. My number guy was Arthur Smith, but behind them it was Shane Waldron, and the fact that he's been an offensive coordinator in the NFL for 3 seasons under the Sean McVay tree. He's taken a quarterback like Russell Wilson. He's gone to a Pro Bowl underneath him. He's taken a quarterback like Geno Smith that everyone had basically just said his career is as a backup, and made him into a Pro Bowl player. So 2 different type of quarterbacks, and he's developed the offense around that quarterback. It really, really intrigues me. It gives me some hope here in terms of, he's going to come in here. He's going to see Caleb's strengths. He's going to see Caleb's weaknesses, where he needs to improve on. And I think fortify the offensive line and give Caleb a shot. Now, in terms of Roman Dunze, you asked, how are they going to use him? I see him, if you go back to Seattle, I see him as a DK Metcalf. I see him as your X receiver on outside and utilize him as that. Because the other thing with the neighbors is one of the things I don't really like is I don't think he's a nice compliment to DJ Moore, because I think they're both Z receivers. I think Neighbors and Moore are both Z. So I thought those are more, like duplicates than they are complements of each other. I think Rome and DJ is a better complement than Neighbors and DJ Moore. So that's how I see it now in terms of offensively what they could do potentially.
Yeah, I want to go back to Fuaga. Obviously, I'm biased. He's my guy. I had a chance to talk to him down in Mobile, Danny, and before I got it out my mouth, he must have knew I was. I don't know. I didn't have Bears gear on, but I asked him about the potential to play the guard, and he was like, "Man, I would love to play next to Darnell Wright." You know what I'm saying? All the talk about him, him potentially kicking in at guard is something. He was like, Darnell Wright is his favorite player of recent to get drafted. He likens it himself to Darnell a little bit. So I like him.
That's a comp I have from watching his tape. He's an athletic guy, 2-year starter, Oregon State. Again, came in at 33 1/8 arm length. He's got 6'6", 324. He's a mauler. He's a guy that will go after people. And I'm telling you, he's quick as a cat. Darnell too is a bigger dude, but he's quick as a cat in terms of getting out of his stance and all that stuff. And I mean, watching Darnell and watching Fuaga kind of get to that next level, especially in the zone scheme, it's very important for your offensive lineman to be quick out of their stance and get into that next level to get to the linebacker, get to that safety, so on and so forth. And he is quick. And there are some issues in terms of technique and all that stuff, but you can coach it up. You can coach it up. But the character, the football character, the nastiness. And I love offensive linemen that are nasty. He brings all that. And like I said, he's my number 2 offensive tackle. And Lathan's not too far behind him there with at number 3.
What I like they've done at center is they gone for experience. I don't like rookie centers and left tackle. It's documented, right? I like the fact that they went with veteran centers, you know what I'm saying? And I hope they allow this to be more of a battle, right? Instead of, penciling a guy in and running with it at training camp, that they allow it to be a battle and see who kind of fights it out. You mentioned the coaching part of this, right? And kind of what Shane has done with Geno Smith and also Russell Wilson. I want to also, give a shout out to Kerry Joseph, who I spent 2 days with talking to Danny in the bar there at the team hotel. And what I was impressed with from our conversations, right? Cole, we just talking ball, right? But, Kerry relayed how the work with Geno was more, about work between the ears and getting his mind right and reminding Geno of who he was. And that being the part, and really how Shane, he spoke about how Shane is a really good teacher, right? But also not just a good football person, that they both really hone in on kind of the psychological part of the game to make sure It's just not theoretically me putting in this scheme, this concept or whatever, but also they take the extra step of, all right, you know what I'm saying, who are we today? You know, what are you thinking? You know, where you at? What's your mindset? So I think that's something that Bears fans should be excited about. Let's switch quickly to the other side of the ball.
And just real quick, Coach, something about I want to mention as well. It's something that I don't think I've ever seen before, and I could be wrong. He's a former safety, being a quarterback coach, and that's a great perspective if you think about it. What's the one of the main things quarterbacks have to do? They got to manipulate the safety with their eyes.
Right.
Who can better teach a quarterback how to manipulate a safety with his eye than a former safety? So I think that's something I don't think I can recall ever having a quarterback coach that used to play defense. So that's something it was kind of interesting. I kind of got excited when I saw that hire because I'm like, that's a perspective that quarterbacks need to be able to help manipulate those safeties.
Yeah, super good guy, man. Hopefully we'll have some opportunity to get to, you know, talk to Kerry throughout the season. I want to shift to defense because I think we, you know, at some point we had ranked top 10 defense. I think this defense has the potential, you know what I'm saying, with one player, one or two players, maybe. I think one player, the right player, makes this defense a top 5 defense potentially. What are your thoughts on that? And what do you think the holes are there, and who you looking at?
Well, obviously, the one of the bigger needs is edge. For me,
Right.
you need a speed guy opposite of Montez Sweat. I mean, we all saw, you and I, you know, and everyone else, you know, all the fans saw the Tez effect, right? When Montez Sweat came, everyone got better, right? The rookies got better. You know, Justin Jones got better, so much better that he parlayed that into a $30 million contract with the Arizona Cardinals. So, you know, everyone got better. The linebackers got better. The secondary got better. So that type of impact player is key. Now what you need someone opposite of him on the other edge. And my opinion is a speed guy. And I know there aren't, you know, there are some guys that in this draft, you know, there are rush guys. There are some guys that are just, you know, base guys there. But for me, I want a speed guy. I want a guy that's going to come off the edge. And even if he plays on nickel situations or on passing downs, give me that speed opposite of Montez Sweat. So these guys won't just keep double teaming him. Now, Eberflus said something really interesting a couple of weeks ago where he said, we're looking to upgrade our pass rush, but don't just think edge, interior as well. And that obviously he runs that 4-3 Rod Marinelli based defense, but he runs it a little bit differently than what Marinelli did and what Lovie Smith, that, you know, we kind of grew up on here and watching that defense, is he likes big guys. He likes big, tall guys with length, physical, quick as heck as it would be great. But, you know, he doesn't necessarily want the Tommy Harrises or the Tank Johnsons, the guys that are, you know, 6'1", 6'2", that are twitched up and all that stuff with shorter arms. He wants those big guys. And going through, you know, kind of looking at this draft here, you know,
he has a type.
Yeah, he's got a type. Definitely got a type. There isn't really that. There are a couple of 3 techniques that excite me, like Byron Murphy from Texas. There's the kid from Illinois.
Newton, bro.
Yep. Him, Johnny Newton, you know, he's a kid that, you know, quick as hell. But again, they don't fit the type, right?
Yeah, he's not the type, but he's a dog, though.
So that's what I'm thinking. Like, you know, so if you go based off of that, now the number 9 pick is going to be my top 3 guys. If I'm scouting for the Bears, my top guy is Dallas Turner. If it's personal, me personally, my top edge guy is Latu from UCLA. I absolutely love this kid. This kid is so, you know, in terms of advance in his hand usage, his ability to pass rush, get after the quarterback. But there's a lot of questions with him off the field in terms of medical, and there's some questions with him with length. So just in terms of the Bears, I think they go Dallas Turner 1, the kid from Alabama. I think they go Jared Verse number 2, and then I think they would go Latu 3. Now I'll start with Latu. I love the kid. Like I told you, he's a guy that his hand usage in terms of the way he gets after the quarterback is so advanced. I haven't seen a defensive lineman come out with that advanced type of hand usage since Joey Bosa came out, right, from Ohio State. That's how he guy wins. But 32-inch arms are not ideal for Eberflus and his staff, and he's got the medical, right. 4 years ago, he was at Washington. They basically, the doctors there made him retire because of a neck injury. He took a year off, and then he came back and went to UCLA, and he's played, you know, both years at UCLA with no setbacks or anything like that. So the medical there is important in terms of, is this guy going to be, someone because Washington was telling him, he has the chance to get, handicapped or be disabled if he gets a wrong hit. So that's
that could be a draft day story.
They could be. And if he's dropping, if Latu is dropping, it's because of the medical. That
Right.
No doubt about it. But in terms of his ability to be at that edge guy, that rusher, perfect fit. But again, the Eberflus type, he doesn't really fit that type. And then also there's medical. Jared Verse is a guy. He's probably the more complete, if you will, of the defensive end. He's a power rusher. He's a guy that doesn't have necessarily the elite bend you look off the edge, but he's a guy that's got a quick first step. He's more of a great straight line athlete than he is a bendy, twitched up athlete. But man, he's got some speed to power conversions where he actually walks tackles right back into the quarterback. He reminds me a lot of Montez Sweat, in terms of he doesn't have the length and the size of Sweat, but the power and the lower power where he generates from his lower half, and he just gets that chest plate of the offensive tackle and just bullies him back into the quarterback. He would be more of a complete defensive end for you there because he plays the run as well as he does the pass. Turner is still developing. He's a younger guy. He's got the length. He's got the athleticism that they're looking for. There's talks about some teams see him as an outside linebacker in a 3-4 scheme, but he's a guy that will give you that edge. Another guy that's still not there yet in terms of as a complete pass rusher, but still has got the tool set that you can like to get there and just develop and make him, eventually develop him into a every down, defensive lineman and a productive sacker. So for me, I think with the Bears and Eberflus, I think it would be Turner 1, Verse 2, and Latu 3.
Yeah, Verse is my dude. I agree with the power part of his game, but I think what goes underrated with Verse is his hands, his he's slippery. He's super slippery. Sneaky slippery. He doesn't get blocked very easily. And I'm talking both run and pass game. It seems like he has a unique way to get off blocks in both with subtle movements, which I like. Latu, my initial concern with Latu is when I walked up on him at the Senior Bowl, and of course, I'm a dude's dude, so I don't make a habit out of looking at a dude's legs, thighs, and butt. You know what I'm saying? So I was concerned about, his upper body because I'm like, bro, this is an NFL prospect. And then when he got to moving around and I saw his lower body, legs, thighs, a lot of his power and speed is generated from there. I agree with you. I think, if there are flags because of concerns because of the medicals, if it becomes a story, then we know what it is, right? I think
you could bring him in as a situational pass rusher and then always, put him in that, into the offseason program, get him bigger. So, but initially he's going to come in. And for me, if you have a Latu there, he's going to be an instant hit in terms of sack getting after the quarterback. I guarantee at least minimum 8 sacks from him next year if he's playing opposite of Montez Sweat in this Bear scheme.
Third down record. Yeah. I like what's his name? Boy, Dallas Turner. I think if I had to pick somebody that had just the raw tools, and I don't know, what's going on in I can't say college football. I can't say Alabama, but I think college football in general over the next few years, we're going to be talking about a lot about development, right? Just the residuals of NIL, transfer portal. Like a lot of kids aren't getting developed, and I think with Dallas Turner, I think a lot of the refinement, they could have got a lot more out of the kids. I think sneaky underrated. I like Dallas Turner's just raw athleticism. I think if he gets with the right coach at the next level, then he potentially turns into my guy from down the street over here at Dutch High School. Across the highway from me right now, Will Anderson, type of comp, where now you can be dominant with that athleticism. I see him he's more twitchier, he's more bendier than Will Anderson. Dallas Turner for me. I think I see him if he gets with the, obviously he gets some more weight, get him stronger, refine his repertoire, his pass rush, squeal. The toolbox is there. The skill set is there. It's just not getting it all kind of, like you said,
coached up. And I see a Josh Allen type, Josh Allen from the Jaguars. That's the kind of pass rush potential he has. But again, he's not there yet, right? So you're taking a guy that's on raw potential and just taking him and how you said, like coaching him up and building him and giving him a pass rush repertoire that's consistent. But he's got that type of bend, the type of first step quickness, the type of length, like a Josh Allen from Jacksonville.
I want to know what you think about this guy, because when I popped on the film, I saw most guys, Danny, they only have 1 or 2 pass rush moves. When I saw the film on this guy, I'm like, I saw at least 4 to 5 moves that he looked like he knew what he was doing. Master, the kid out of Washington, Trice, like,
yeah, Bill Trice. There's I love the kid in terms of his hustle, in terms of his ability to get after the quarterback. His motor goes nonstop. Again, another one that's that tweener type, right? He's a guy that a lot of teams see as an outside linebacker. Some don't see him as a hand in the ground defensive end. Came in with shorter than expected arm length. The big thing with him was he dropped about 30 pounds right before the combine, and there's talk about him just so he can run a better 40. But I mean, he for right now, he's in my top 10 in terms of edge guys in this class. He comes in at number 10. He's at 6'3", 245. Again, 32 and a half inch arm length. Ran a 4.72 40 with a 1.65 10-yard split. The 1.65 is what the 10-yard split is what I really look for in these defensive linemen and offensive linemen, is how fast did he get off line of scrimmage and get up and going. So he's a guy that intrigues me. But there's a lot of talk about that size, that he's kind of that tweener. Is he an outside linebacker? Why did he lose all that weight just to run that forward? Because he didn't look that fast at Washington, but he's intriguing. But he's more of a third round pick, maybe fourth round pick area in terms of where he could go now. But yeah, he's a guy that definitely you can bring in. Could be one of those situational pass rushers, and it could also fill in. And if you get him up to like 255, 260, he could be a guy that could be eventually a hand in the ground defensive end. But again, we talked about the Eberflus type, and that arm length kind of, I think, would knock him down a peg or two, according to his defensive minded coach and what he likes in terms of his defensive lineman.
You mentioned Flus. You mentioned Flus saying that, hey, it could be an interior guy. Who are your probably top 2 or 3 guys interior wise? Because I got a few guys that I love. Newton. I know he doesn't fit the type, but there's a series where he played against Penn State, where it was a goal line stands, and he looked all about 6'5" in that series. Like, he was just like he almost had Aaron Donald type of crazy. Like, I'm like, they're running right at him. Like, they're running right at him, and he doesn't care. He's taking tackles and putting them in the backfield. What are your interior guys looking like?
Yeah, Byron Murphy is my top guy from Texas. Again, he's on the shorter side, 6 feet, almost a little under 300 pounds. So he's a guy that plays some 2-gapping at Texas. I think he's got that quick twitch potential to be able to get up in that gap and be a disruptor there in the middle of the football field. But again, he's a guy that's undersized in terms of what Eberflus likes. Johnny Newton is my second number 2 interior defensive lineman. Again, 6'2", shade under 300 pounds, but quick. Another guy that's got some good fine hand usage in terms of winning with his hands and getting that inside leverage or outside leverage, depending on what he's trying to do. But again, another guy that's like a 1-gap penetrator, that I think would fit nice in the scheme. But again, doesn't fit the profile that Eberflus has shown us the last couple of seasons. My guy that I like, if you go past those guys, number 3 is Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State. He's a guy that didn't start many games. I believe when he had started 6 games the last 2 years at Ohio State. And there's a lot of talk about why this guy doesn't get played. But man, you put on his tape. I saw him against Michigan. I saw him against LSU, and I saw him against, I believe, Notre Dame. And this guy was dominating. I mean, I saw him against Penn State as well. Penn State dedicated a back along with the guard just for Michael Hall Jr. because they couldn't stop him. And talk about a guy that's got the ability to get into the gap, a 1-gap penetrator, a guy that's pretty stout at the line of scrimmage, can take on double teams, can hold his ground. He's a guy that could be a 2nd-round pick that could come in and be that 3 technique in terms of this defense. But the concerns about him is why didn't he start on a regular basis? What's going on? There was similar talk about Lucas Van Ness last year coming out of Iowa. He never started a game. He ended up going in the first round to the Packers. Had a solid rookie campaign. So, but the thing with Michael Hall Jr. is there's talk about, he just had these nagging injuries. Whether it was abductor muscle injury, ankle, calf muscle. These little things that kind of bothered him. And I think the coaches were trying to kind of preserve him and just kind of keep him. It limited his snaps. So I think that might be something that you have to look into. But again, if medical checks out fine, everything else checks out fine, Michael Hall Jr. could be a guy that could be a stud in this draft, and you can get it probably in a second round. Now, unfortunately, the Bears don't have a second round pick currently, but that's something you could recoup if you trade the number 9 pick. The other guy that I think that fits this profile at number 4 is Mason Smith from LSU.
Mm-hmm.
He's a young guy. He's 6'5", 300 pounds. 35-inch arms. He fits the profile that Eberflus likes.
Right.
He's a 5-star recruit coming out of high school, had a solid first year at LSU as a freshman. Unfortunately, tore his ACL in that second year in the opener against Florida State. So it took him a whole year. This past year, you could see he was a little bit, maybe out of shape. It wasn't as quick as he was as his freshman year. He's still recovering from that injury. So I think the effects of that was still kind of lingering there. Towards the tail end of the season at LSU, he was a guy that was starting to dominate those guys. Now, he's also a guy that's raw. He's got the toolbox and the skill set that we talked about, but you got to develop him. But man, at 6'5", 300 plus pounds with 35-inch arms, this is a kid that would fit in there, and he's a wall in the middle of that defensive line. Now you add him with the Zach Pickens, you add him with the Gervon Dexter, you add him with Andrew Billings. You got a formidable inside of that defensive line. So I think that's a guy you keep an eye on. And another guy that just to keep on, my 5th guy is Dwayne Carter from Duke. Went down to the Senior Bowl. You were down in Mobile. This kid was dominating in terms of the one-on-ones in Mobile. And you put on his tape, 6'2", 300 pounds. I think he's a 1 technique, but he's got potential to be a 1-gap 3 technique as well. So, it shows some quickness, some twitch at the line of scrimmage. And if you let him or allow him to be a 1-gap penetrator, I think he could do that as well. But, worst case scenario, he's a 1 technique, the guy that can take on blockers and allow some of your linebackers to get up and eat and get those tackles. So those are my top 5. I can keep going if you want, but those are my top 5 guys.
I love Carter. Crazy build, crazy athleticism, great
More
kid.
never stopped running.
Yeah, I'll say this: if the Bears draft Carter, y'all be on the lookout. Y'all be on the lookout for that interview. I might break that interview for y'all. I might have his.
3-year team captain, coach. Yeah. That's rare. No, you never see a 3-year team captain. So he's a guy that, again, the intangibles, the football character, he's got it as well.
Yeah, I might break that interview for CB360. I might have his phone number. I might have his number in my phone. Y'all stand by for that. That's one of the ones I was like, man, this kid might be a late, if we trade back, get picks, he might be a late pickup.
Some of what I've seen, that's 3rd, 4th round right now. But I mean, if you get him in a 3rd round, like that pick 75, I think I would have no problem getting using that pick on Dwayne Carter.
So we're gonna switch gears before we jump to the DM section and answer a few questions. Danny, I gotta ask you this. This is what I want to know. This is what the fans want to know. How long before we get to a Super Bowl?
Oh, yeah, this team has got some talent now, right? It's got the DJ Moores, it's got eventually Caleb Williams, it's got the Braxton Jones, who I think is going to develop into a pretty solid left tackle. It's got some makings on the offensive line. Defensive line, obviously Montez Sweat is the stud there. If the interior guys, the Dexters and the Pickens take the next step and they become more consistent, I think you have a formidable, along with DeMarcus Walker there at the end as well. Now you add an edge guy possibly. I think you have a formation there. The linebacker group is solid. And I think the secondary really kind of came up in the last year, and they're young, right? You talk about Stevenson at corner. You talk about Terrell Smith, the other corner, young guy, rookies last year, 2nd-year players now. Bringing back, Jalen Johnson is a huge pick there as well. Obviously you lost Eddie Jackson, but you filled in with a veteran like Kevin Byard. So, and then you have Jaquan Briscoe. So I think that and then Kyler Gordon too as a nickel. So I think that young secondary is still the strength of the team, the defensive team. Now you keep adding to the up front. That's only going to continue to get better. And now defensively, you have something now. If you can score points on a regular basis, you can be a competitive team. Now you're in a hell of a division, guys. You're going to be there with the Packers, who I think are only going to get better. Remember, Jordan Love got better and better at the end of last year, and all his weapons were all first and second year players. So they're all going to grow together. They're all going to get better there. And then, they're about the new defensive coordinator. We'll see how that turns out. But they have a ton of talent, of first round picks invested on the defense. So if this new coordinator can get them all going, they're going to be a tough team to beat, right?
Yeah.
Obviously you got Detroit, right, and what they're doing there, and Dan Campbell's building there in Detroit. So they're going to be a formidable team. I know a lot of people are down on Minnesota because they lost Kirk Cousins. But man, if they make the right moves here, and they have a heck of a coach who, by the way,
that's what I was gonna say. That coach,
I wanted him. He was one of the guys I wanted when Eberflus was hired. Is Kevin O'Connell, and the Bears didn't even give him an interview. But I mean, he's a guy that can coach up quarterbacks. He can put points on the board. They're talented on offense. They got T.J. Hawkinson at tight end. Addison at receiver. Obviously, Justin Jefferson at receiver. So they can put up points. They have a formidable, solid offensive line. It's the question is if that quarterback, if Sam Darnold can give them, mid production until that rookie, whoever they're going to end up drafting, gets ready to come in and produce. They have a defense, and Brian Flores has done a hell of a job last year. I know they lost Daniel Hunter. I know he lost some pieces, but he brought some more pieces there. They invested some more pieces on defense. They're going to be formidable on defense. They've got the weapons on the outside. It's just a matter of if they get steady quarterback play, and again, it doesn't have to be great quarterback play, just steady, consistent quarterback play. I think they're going to be a good team as well. So you're still looking at possibly being the fourth team in the division. So let's win a division first before we start talking about winning the Super Bowl. But I think if you make the right moves, and this is why I've said, and you've heard me say this before, Coach, this offseason is for the organization is pivotal. You got to hit on all your moves. Now, you only have 4 picks. So whether you trade and get more picks, we'll see. But if you just stay with those 4 picks have to come in and contribute next year.
Right.
And there's also going to be another wave of free agency, guys. Don't forget. They're not done with free agency now, because once the draft is done, teams are going to be drafting players at positions that they currently have veterans on. And if say, all right, so we got this guy, now we can cut this guy, right? So there's going to be another wave of free agency post June 1st cuts. And there's going to be another chance for Poles and company to go ahead and get some more players and bring in some more players. There's definitely some holes, especially on defense, right? Edge guy, we haven't filled it yet. Interior defensive line, we need that as well. You could probably bring in some depth there at linebacker. Safety is they brought in some guys, some veteran guys for depth, but that's also a position where if one of the starters goes down, are you comfortable with Elijah Hicks starting or Tavares Moore, who's one of the veterans they picked up off the free agency? Off free agency, are you comfortable with him starting? Do you look at a safety in this draft if you get more picks? So there are question marks there. Obviously, offensive line first and foremost. You and I both agree there. Nate Davis is a big question mark. The center, we kind of touched on it there. Is Ryan Bates or Coleman Shelton going to man up that position? And then can Tevin Jenkins stay healthy? All right, when he's on the football field, he's his presence is felt. He's right. I don't want to say dominant, but he's a pretty damn good left guard. Can he stay healthy? Can he be consistent? And then obviously now, can you? And we kind of touched earlier with the coaching staff. What kind of play caller Shane Waldron is he going to be? Is he going to be able to actually build this system around his rookie quarterback, and he's going to be able to protect him? He's going to struggle. He's a rookie, right? NFL teams are going to come after him, kind of some hard. So he's not going to come in here and light the world on fire. So expect that. Expect some growing pains. But also, my hope is, and I think your hope is as well, with Shane Waldron, who's a veteran offensive coordinator now of 3 years, he'll be able to kind of guide him through the struggles and maybe rely more on the run game and rely on some play action stuff, some easy stuff, some quick hitting game, right? Get him in rhythm, and then you can take your shots down the football field. So there's still a lot of holes, a lot of questions here but you like the way they're trending. Now we just got to put it over the top with the draft and kind of filling in some of the roster holes there.
Obviously, I think Green Bay is the target. Like you said, the job that, Matt LaFleur did with Jordan Love last year was masterful. From a coaching perspective, it's chef's kiss. You can't, from a program standpoint, and we talk about development all the time. That is what development means. It's you start here, you end there systemically, right? This is how we're going to get you there. And he did that. And he allowed space in the middle of the season for Jordan to struggle, right? We're going to take some chances here, maybe against some lesser opponents or whatever, but I'm going to give you an opportunity where I may overload you a little bit just to see, where you are. So this is going to serve as a test, having a program. But I believe if Green Bay's the target, I think one thing that goes underrated about Matt Eberflus and this football team potentially something to keep an eye on. I believe play style becomes a topic of conversation when it comes to trying to win this division, because I think people think, oh, where are we getting Caleb Williams? We got these, new weapons that's coming in potentially through the draft or whatever the case may be. Then we go out and try and get in the shootout with Green Bay. And I think that's the opposite of what we should do. A lot was made about, the last game of the season, us losing to Green Bay in the season finale. But I have to remind people, we lost by 8 points. And had we had a competent, to me, offensive coordinator who could put some drives together, that's a tighter game because of the play style. Now, conversely, a few weeks later, Green Bay goes to Dallas, who I think was pretty talented team, but Dallas, I think, play style chose the wrong game plan versus Green Bay. They decided, hey, we want to get in the shootout with them, right? And it was opposite. They didn't have enough bullets in their gun, right? Offensively. And if you can't hold up on defense, then the shootout perspective doesn't work. I think running the ball, especially early on with this rookie quarterback, taking the air out of the ball, time of possession, controlling the clock, kind of winning a little bit boring, old school football early on and getting yourself to and getting Caleb to like week 12, 13, 14 and saying, okay, we're going to stretch you out a little bit. We're going to allow you to do more throwing the ball. And then, allowing things to ramp up, escalate. And that's the way to kind of take over things where you can kind of surprise some opponents, and rely on that defense, especially if you get a guy interior defensive line or edge that, hey, we can come out here and be dominant. We're going to run the ball. The running the ball is going to keep this defense rested well enough that when you are on the field, you can go out there and kick ass. You know what I'm saying? And we can rely on that again, weeks 1 through say 12, 13, 14. Now we can say, okay, let's stretch the kid out. And this is why I say this, because I think, for fans that that focus more on the fantasy numbers, right? And the fact that we are getting a, potentially electric quarterback, their mentality goes to, or they'll have expectations of fantasy numbers, especially early on. Well, why isn't he throwing for 375, 323, 4-1? Oh, he's a bust because he's not doing that. And they don't pay attention to game plan. They don't pay attention to play style. And styles make fights in football, right? Styles make fights in football games. I don't care how we win it. I just want to win it. So I just wanted to call it out because I think it's going to be an important thing, again, for us to look out for early on and throughout the season, more so than looking for fantasy numbers or betting numbers or, things of that nature. We're going to have a little fun with it, Danny. We're going to slide to the DM section, answer a few questions, but I know Danny to be a serious guy. So I'm going to break him out of his shell, and we're going to slide to the DM section. So cue that up for us real fast, Jay. But also, Danny, while we're answering questions, I got another tradition of CB360. You have to give out the Drunk Uncle Award, my friend. I don't know if you heard about the infamous Drunk Uncle Award, but you mentioned how I've been getting at people's necks on X and Twitter probably the last 3 or 4 months. That's basically what it boils down to, man. The drunk uncles out there going crazy take, crazy saying, crazy something you've seen over the last 3 or 4 months. We're going to cue that up last. Let's slide Jay Dizzle to the DM section. Let's go.
Did you get some crazy DMs or what?
Very.
Surprises or no?
You're talking blue check marks?
Yeah,
people who be sliding and I'm like, wow, y'all fuck with me like that.
Y'all rock with us like this Chicago Bears 360. Can't even talk. Chicago Bears 360 with Coach T and Danny Shimon on the show. My label mate, my show mate from Barroom Network. It was a pleasure, man, working on the program with you. I actually spoke to Aldo a couple of days ago, and Aldo's actually going to be on the program in June. Got to get him over here, man. Cool. A mentor of sorts in this YouTube game, man. The pod father. Yeah, man, we got to get him over here. So he agreed to come on the program. So we're excited about that. Let's get in some of these questions. Jay, comments. We'll let Danny speak to him. Jay Grizz says, "Oh, appreciate the super chat." By the way, Jay Grizz, he said, "Go ahead and run it up." I didn't see the comment or the He said for the top jar, Coach T. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. What's the top jar? Is that a saying? I'm from the South. I don't know what that is. Is that the cuss jar or the swear jar? I don't know. But I appreciate you, Jay Gariz. Thanks for chiming in, man. Hey, maybe for my I don't know, for my Coke Zero or something, I need to be on. Cornelius Hill says, Danny, do you feel that the Bears should bring in a vet like Tannehill to give Caleb time to learn the pro game? Interesting.
That's a good question, Cornelius. And that's something I've thought about is the Bears don't have that traditional veteran quarterback, backup quarterback, just to kind of, like I said, give Caleb a veteran sounding board there. So, the guy that seemingly was always around, Nate Peterman, actually was training with Caleb down in I believe it was in Florida or wherever he was training at. But he just signed with the Saints a couple weeks ago, so he's gone. He's not someone they could bring in. But Tyson Bagent, obviously second-year player. They brought in Brett Rippon, which I think he's only a camp quarterback. So let's see who shakes out. Ryan Tannehill, I'm not sure he's the ideal guy that comes in, and it's got to be someone that knows pretty much their role, right? And I think Tannehill might think he still has some game left in that arm of his, and he might want to go to a position where he might want to challenge the starter. And so we'll see how that shakes out. But yeah, a veteran quarterback. And again, I just mentioned earlier, with this draft, we'll see who gets drafted, who gets cut. There could be a mid-round quarterback selected, and some veteran could be let go. We don't know what happens, but definitely will let you know. I wouldn't be shocked if they go and get a veteran guy to come in here and just kind of be able to coach them. But if they don't, the one thing that did add, and I mentioned his name earlier, is Thomas Brown. He was with the Rams back with McVay, back when Waldron was with the Rams, was with the Colts last year as their I believe it was a quarterback coach or running back coach, I forgot, and then they became the passing game corner, and then became the interim head coach and all that stuff. So he's a guy that's got some experience there in terms of maybe gelling with the quarterback and being that quarterback whisperer, if you will. His title is passing game coordinator. So we'll see if that's something that they're going to go ahead and go with. And I know they like Tyson Bagent in terms of younger guy, second-year player, got some room to improve there as well. So they might just stick with those two guys. But again, it wouldn't surprise me to bring in a guy. I just don't know if Ryan Tannehill is the perfect candidate.
Yeah, I would if they were to do it, I would think somebody that probably studied under Shane before that could bring in some of the terminology and some of the concepts and translate. I said that was probably going to happen before with a player or two that probably came out of that tree. So yeah, they got the center out of that system that probably knows the terminology. But I was thinking they were going to bring in a wide receiver, and they actually did. They got Ripken, the guy. Right, so it's not
Rippon played with the Rams for a bit, but he was so bad that McVay cut him and then went and got Carson Wentz. So
I was thinking when we signed him, not so much again to play, but to have somebody in the quarterback room that has the experience to say, hey, this is what this concept is, as kind of like an on-field coach or player coach to translate for you, because a lot of those guys, they can't do it, but they've had time in that system where. You know what I'm saying? They can help Caleb out. So I think that might be a default plan as well. Who we got next? I see our creative director J2K has a question for Danny. Says, who are your blue chip players at 9 that you would draft, even if there was a great offer to trade back? Oh,
well, being realistic, J2K, and if I go through, I don't want to just bring out names but if Marvin Harrison Jr. is there at number 9, which I don't think it's going to happen, but if he's there, I don't trade, and if Alt is there at number 9, I don't trade back, because those two guys are blue chip guys for me. Alt is a plug and play player now. He played left tackle. We talked about Braxton Jones and his improvement. I have no problem kicking Alt to the right side and making my right tackle and kicking down right inside a right guard, like we talked about with Latham and Fuaga potentially. So those two players, I don't expect either one of those players to be available, but if those two players are available at number 9, I think I would hold on to number 9 and pick one of those two players.
I'm going to segue off of that one, Danny, because I've heard this over the last couple of weeks or so. We have 8 picks, I believe, next year. If Marvin Harrison Jr. comes within reach, say he goes 6, we get down to 6, he's not off the board. Probably unlikely. Let's say 5. 5, he's not off the board. Do we use capital from next year to trade up? Because we talk about trading down a lot. You know what I'm saying? If you're there, you're Ryan Poles, and you say, hey, I'm ready to make the swing. He's too close. I'm going to offer capital to move up and get him.
Depends what you're giving up. If you're giving up a 3rd round pick from next year, sure, I'll do it. If you're giving up that Carolina 2nd round pick from next year, I would think hard, because of the fact that I love Marvin Harrison Jr., but Roma Dunze is not that far behind, guys. And he's a guy that if he's there at 9, I would be happy in as well. But the only reason I would consider a trade with Roma Dunze is because of the deep class here that we have. And if you get multiple picks in this class and maybe a 1st round pick next year, that is something that you really would be intrigued in. And you can go get a receiver in the 2nd round, whether it's Xavier Legette from South Carolina, whether it's a kid I love is Pearsall from Florida. He's going to be a hell of a slot receiver in this league. You know, there's a ton of players you can get in that next round. Even the guys in the 3rd round, like a Brennan Rice, who for some reason people are not that high on, but because he doesn't create that much separation, but he's a physical guy at 6'2", over 200 pounds. You know, runs at 4.5 40. You know, obviously comes from great pedigree. So there's depth in this receiver class where if you get extra picks, you could make up for the loss of Roma Dunze. But for me, Marvin Harrison is clear cut number 1 receiver, X receiver outside. Him and DJ for the next 5, 6, 7 years are going to be your stud receivers on the outside. I think again Alt would be a building block on the offensive line, either left side or right side. That's why those 2 guys I would not trade off of.
I think it's a similar question right here, Danny. Eric right here. If you can bring that one up, Julius. Eric asked a question about drafting up in the 2nd, moving up in the 2nd. I don't want to misquote the question. Danny, is there a guy in this draft you would trade up for into the 2nd for, say, like 75 and a future too?
Yeah, if we're talking about, I'm assuming they're going to use the number 1 pick obviously on Caleb and number 9 on say Roma Dunze, right? So they got the receiver, they've got their the quarterback, and then so if you're going to trade up in the 2nd round for I'm assuming a defensive player, right? If there's going to be an edge guy, is it going to be an interior guy? So those are the guys I would look at. So guys in the 2nd round that are projected to go in the 2nd round. Mason Smith, we talked about from LSU. I think Dwayne Carter could be there at number 75, so you can wait on him. In terms of some of the edge guys, if they drop like a Darius Robinson to get from Missouri, if somehow drops in that 2nd round range, he's a guy I would consider. He's a guy that for me is a guy that can play end, can kick inside at a 3 technique on passing downs and give you some position versatility there. So Robinson's a guy I would consider trading for if you're talking about defensive lineman edge guys. So those are a couple of names there. Obviously Michael Hall Jr. is a guy I'm high on as well. So if he's there and you need that interior defensive 3 technique, that's where I'm assuming that you're going to be trading up for, is because you've got your receiver in Dunze and you got your quarterback, unless there's a tackle that drops and you need to fill that spot as well. We talked about Latu possibly with medical issues. If he drops in the 2nd round, definitely would be a guy I'd go up and try and get. And again, the question mark with him is a lot of teams have said that can he get to a 2nd contract, right? 1st round, if you spend 1st round capital on a guy and doesn't get to a 2nd contract, it looks like a bad pick.
Great
2nd
point.
round, flyer on a guy, and it's happened before, right? So like guys like Miles Jack and so on and so forth. So that's where another guy, Latu from UCLA would be another guy that I could target in the 2nd round and go up and get if he's still there.
We got any more, Julius? By the way, I wanted to hit this point earlier. I thought Thomas Brown was sneaky good signing by the Bears in terms of coaching, having a succession plan for Shane. If Shane has a great season this year and moves on, keeps continuity for the young quarterback, and we can continue to grow him and his development. So I wanted to point that out earlier when you were mentioning it, Danny. Cornelius says, Danny, what about Marshawn Keelan in the later rounds? And let's take one more, and then we're gonna slide to the DMs. Yeah,
Marshawn Keelan's a guy that a lot of people are more higher on than I am. He's a power rush guy. He's a guy that's got the size, it's got the length you're looking for, but he's more of a raw clay kind of guy, and you can kind of mold him and you can develop him. So yeah, if in my 2nd round, if I'm trading up for a guy, I want instant impact, and I just don't know what kind of impact I'm going to get from Marshawn Nealon. But so he was more of a guy that I would target like in the third, fourth round, that kind of range. But obviously, I know a lot of teams are high on him because of those dimensions he has and because of the motor he plays with. So he might go higher. But for me, I would not trade up for Marshawn Nealon. No.
What do you think about the running back room, Danny? We didn't speak a whole lot about them.
I don't like paying running backs. I don't know why they would go pay $8.5 million for Swift. Now he's a talented back, but let's be honest, he hasn't had a 1,000-yard season until last year, and he just barely made 1,000 yards last year with playing behind one of the better offensive lines in the NFL with the Eagles. So he gives you a little bit of that pass catching ability. They talked about his home run hitting speed. If you go back and look at the numbers, he doesn't give you that much of that home run hitting speed. At least he didn't last year, right? So, and as a guy that I watch Hard Knocks every year, and then the one thing I remember vividly was when Swift was with the Lions, and Deuce Staley, who I respect as a running back coach, was on his ass about tiptoeing the line of scrimmage, being timid, and that's not
just
what
hit
you
the
want.
hole. Yeah, he kept telling him just hit the hole.
Yeah, so and that's not what you, and to give him $8.5 million. I know it's not breaking the bank. I know they have the cap, but I like the running backs we had. Maybe you could have gone and picked a running back here in the third round, for example, Trey Benson or something like that, and give you some of that inside running that you're going to lose with losing the power guy we had. So it's a thing that was a head scratcher for me. I'm not sure why they did it. I wouldn't have done it personally. I would have just preferred, put that money towards a defensive guy or an edge guy or something like that, and then gone and used one of my draft picks here for a running back in this class.
They had their eye on him because they signed him first in free agency.
That was the first guy signed.
First free agent sign. We're going to wrap this one up with J2K, I think. Jay Dizzle. His question there, Danny, who did he ask that one? Oh, my bad. No, go ahead. Let me stop doing your job for you. Sebastian Tara says, how well would Brian Thomas Jr. be for the Bears? Now, I like Brian Thomas.
He's 4 on my he's 5 on my receiver list, right behind Keon Coleman from Florida State. So he's a guy that's intriguing. He's a guy that's got the height, in terms of 6'3", 6'4", ran a 4.39 40. He's got the long arms, the big catch radius, and he's a speed guy. He's a guy that gets down the football field. He's a guy that to me is still developing. He's not there yet on the par of the first 3 guys, but he gives a different dimension, right? He might be. Even though he's got the size, I'm not sure if he's an X. I'm not sure if he's a guy that can get off the press at the line of scrimmage, because he's more of that home run hitting, speed guy in a big receiver's body. So he'd be 5 behind my guy Keon Coleman from Florida State, who I think also is still developing, but he's a natural hands catcher. He's a guy that's got the skill set, and he's got the raw athletic ability as well. Not the speed guy that Brian Thomas is, but he's more of that powerful guy. Again, another guy's got the big catch radius. He's even if he's covered, he's open, and I love those kind of receivers, especially with the rookie quarterback, where a lot of times you just kind of throw it to a guy's area code, and because of the reach and his ability to go up and make plays on contested balls, you go up and get it. Keon Coleman is one of those players. So, but Brian Thomas is a talented kid, no doubt about it. But I just he'd be more of a stretch the field guy in a 6'4" body.
That's the word from Danny Shimon. We're gonna label you with the super scout. Listen, Danny, we're gonna slide to the Drunk Uncle segment, where Danny Shimon gets to give out the Drunk Uncle Award for this Thursday. I'm anxious to see who this is, because Danny is he's pretty normally reserved. You know what I'm saying? Reserved guy. So this is probably pulling him out of his shell for a little bit. So let's slide over that Jay Dizzle. Let's see who Danny got for us today.
Give me some a little bit more of
everybody asks this question. Give me the background for the Drunk Uncle, man. It's just a way. It's a friendly way to clap back. Like, you know what I'm saying? People say crazy stuff, man, in Bears media, Bears social media, man. So it's we've had some unique ones out there, you know what I'm saying? And also strategically, low key is my way sometimes of getting the next guest on the show. So there you go. So let me know, man. You probably ran into some wild stuff over the last few months.
Like you said earlier, the whole Bears social media thing was crazy, and I stayed far away from it as possible. So I'm sure there's stuff out there that I've missed, and I've been grinding the tape, and I haven't really been out there and looking. So I don't have someone that comes to the top of my mind in terms of just saying something really whacked out and crazy,
How
especially
about how about in the Bears staff or organization? Because I know you know what I'm saying, you could be you have a lot of times have some smoke for those guys, right? So Warren, Pose, Flus.
if I'm gonna go ahead and just be honest here, it's Ryan Poles for me is not a guy that I fully trust. He's not a guy that I am 100% behind. He's made a couple moves here that I really like. Obviously, the DJ Moore trade from last year, the Montez Sweat trade from last year, but there's a lot of questionable moves here as well. But for me, and this is what now you mentioned this. Now this really pissed me off was he came out at the combine and he said that we're going to do right by Justin Fields, right? So basically told the whole NFL, we're going to trade Justin Fields because if he's your quarterback, if he's your future quarterback, if he's actually under consideration for being your future quarterback, you don't come out and say, we'll do right by him, right? You just basically told the whole NFL that we're going to trade him. And then you're going to go and ask for a second and a fourth round pick for him. NFL, I'm like, why would I give you that when either you're going to cut him eventually or you're going to meet my asking price, right?
Yeah.
So now the whole spin is, oh, the NFL has spoken about Justin Fields. No, the NFL hasn't spoken about Justin Fields. Ryan Poles overplayed his hand, and then NFL said, we're going to call your bluff. You're either going to draft Caleb Williams and have an uncomfortable situation in the locker room where the players love Justin Fields, and now you have a rookie, your new face of the franchise, or you're going to give him to us for what we want, or, it is what it is, right? And, Omar Khan called his bluff. They made the trade. I know from what I've heard that they could have gotten a fourth round pick from the Eagles for Justin, but Justin wanted to go to the Steelers, so they did right by him in that aspect because they sent him to the Steelers, and he's that sixth round pick conditional to be a fourth round pick. But again, why would you say that? You just go out there and say, you know what, we're going through the process, we're evaluating the quarterbacks. We have Justin Fields, we're evaluating his season as well. Don't say we're going to do right by Justin. And I know that there's times where he's just too honest to a fault. Yeah. In this league where every little word is being listened to by other teams and they're deciphering what you're doing and they're trying to figure out what your strategy is, that just totally blew your case. You went from possibly getting a second round pick for Justin Fields to getting, like I said, I think they're going to get a fourth round pick eventually for Justin Fields, but that really and then now the whole narrative turned that the NFL says Justin Fields can't play and he's only worth a sixth round pick. He's not worth a sixth round pick. Mac Jones went for a sixth round pick, all right, because he sucked last year. Partially not his fault, but he sucked last year. Justin Fields was productive, right? He's a guy that was ascending. He's still getting better. He's not worth a sixth round pick, but Ryan Poles overplayed his hand and he got caught. And the NFL said, you know what? We got you, Ryan Poles. This is what we're going to give you for him. And eventually he was forced to trade him.
You know what? It was funny, Danny. Me and the producer Julius was having the same conversation offline, and this is exactly my take on. And I'm not down. I'm not down on Ryan Poles at all. Right? I actually tweeted that, hey, there's a side eye. Now, here's the thing. Here's the perspective. People can say what they want, but you can DM me on LinkedIn. I'll send you. I said LinkedIn. You can DM me on X or Twitter. I'll send you the direct link to. I'll send you the link to my LinkedIn account, and I'll show you. You'll be able to see how many millions in portfolio I oversee every year, for the company I work for. And I said this in the pregame show, prior to the decision. It's a game of chess when it comes to the business aspect and negotiating deals. And you hit it. Me and Danny haven't talked about this, mind you guys. Danny hit my take on the head, right? Related to the conversation about it, because I said the only thing that the Commanders, if he was going to trade Justin Fields, the only bargaining chip, the only leverage that the Commanders had was time, right? So if you wait Ryan Poles out, if you force him to say, hey, I'm going to make you wait until the last minute to make a decision about the quarterback, then that's the only leverage you have. I do believe he tipped his hand way too much, but he waited too long if he knew what he was going to do to make a decision, right? So it's either you have to be on or two extremes of the negotiation part of that, right? Time is the factor when you're negotiating a contract. That's why when you go to a car dealership, they say, hey, we have to do it now. We have to make this deal now, or you're buying a house. They say, hey, it's never a good idea to send you home and give you time to really think it out, right? And so I think that's exactly what happened. If you knew what you were going to do, make the decision early on before everything, all the information starts to come out. This perception, and that's why I don't like to continue on with the Justin Field conversations, because one, I think it's a moot point. Nobody wants to listen to logic, or they don't want to talk about, business 101, negotiations 101, or whatever the case may be. Here's the deal. I don't believe that this dude is worth a 6th-round pick or peanuts, as some would say. So I'd rather see it play out with better coaching, a better organization and infrastructure to support him. And then we talk about it then and say, okay, boom. The question I asked people was, from an organizational standpoint, who erase the quarterback from the conversation? Who gets to the playoffs first? Pittsburgh or Chicago?
Pittsburgh.
60% of Bears fans disagree with you, Danny. And I did this survey just last week just to check the temperature and sanity, and people realizing, okay, do you understand the infrastructure and the support? No, we're taking Justin Fields out of the question. Off rip, Mike Tomlin's getting to the playoffs. Right. Like off rip. People don't realize that. Like,
he made it to the playoffs with 4 quarterbacks last year playing for him. And he's got a great defense. He's going to have a good running game. He's got the perfect offensive coordinator for that team, Arthur Smith. And all he needs is, like I said, is good, solid quarterback play. And Justin, like at that last year, was ascending. He was getting better. He's getting over some of the stuff. I thought when he came back from that thumb injury, he got better. He showed some more promise and more poise in the pocket, some more ability to make plays in the pocket. And again, you add him now in that perfect system with Arthur Smith, the perfect play caller, is going to build that offense around him eventually, I believe, and that defense and that head coach. And I know, and they play in the AFC, which is a tougher conference in my opinion. But I still think they're making the playoffs before the Bears make playoffs.
Right, and I think that's mostly to what we talked about earlier, right? Because people can't put their thumb on it. Like, why does this guy always end up in the playoffs in the NFC North? But why does he always do it? I think Mike Tomlin understands play style better than any coach in the NFL. There's a style of play that Pittsburgh knows they have to play, that they can beat Baltimore, they can beat Cincinnati, they can beat certain teams in the AFC and still get in. And it's play style. And he hasn't gone away from that. He hasn't allowed the game to reinvent how he coaches the game. But I appreciate the take, because I try to stay away from it, because it's like, bro, it's an exhausting conversation, because again, people are so caught up in their emotions of it all that they don't want to see the logic of it all. Those players, those quarterbacks that everybody said, well, these guys that went to teams before Justin, you cannot look and say, oh, that dude is better than Justin Fields.
Right.
Stats aside.
Even Trevor Lawrence, Jacksonville's got a big decision to make in terms of his contract, right? I'm assuming they're going to pick up his 5th-year option, but I mean, he's a guy that hasn't lit the world on fire. And for me, coming out of that draft, it was Trevor and Justin neck and neck. And I was really, I put Trevor number 1, but Justin was right there for me. And again, it's this kid. You talked about Coach Tomlin. Of the 2 quarterbacks he's got there, Russell Wilson and Justin Fields, which one of these quarterbacks looks like a Mike Tomlin type of quarterback? That guy's going to give him that juice. It's going to give him that. That's going to get that team riled up. It's going to take a 20-yard run and bowling over a linebacker for the team to rally that stadium to get on fire. And next thing you know, Justin is going to be leading that team, marching up and down the field. And I wholeheartedly believe that they're going to make the playoffs next year with Justin as their starting quarterback.
Hey,
the thing that pissed me off is NFL has spoken. Justin Fields is worth a 6th-round pick. No, it's not. Yeah. The NFL wanted Justin Fields. Ryan Poles messed it up.
There you go. So for today, Thursday, whatever the day it is, I'm losing track. Danny Shimon is giving the drunk uncle to Ryan Pose. There you have it. And yes, it is a Bears show. You probably chimed in late, last minute, or whatever the case may be. But that's part of his drunk uncle take, you know what I'm saying, to really describe the situation and the decision. And more so the timing around the decision, because still, if you try to flip it, if you really want to flip it and make it a Bears take, it's still, did you execute the timing of the deal to still do what's best for the Bears? Also, if you really want to call it straight up, if you want to be a shrewd businessman, then you're not coming out and talking about, oh, I'm going to do what's best for Justin Fields. Right. That's none of anybody's. That's none of anybody's business. You're trying to be a good guy. You got to be a shrewd businessman in that situation and say, I don't give a damn what none of y'all think. I'm going to do what's best for the Bears. Right. So shout out to Danny Shimon on that one, man. I appreciate you, Danny. Always fun, man. I don't know what the future holds and what it's going to look like for the program on Barroom for next season for Sundays, but definitely looking forward to tapping in. You're always welcome to come back. Danny's always tapped into the scout culture. The man puts in the work, so I appreciate you coming in. So for myself, you know what I'm saying, S Dizzle, yeah, man. S Dizzle and my man J2K, the creative director for Chicago Bears 360. Y'all know how we do it on Chicago Bears 360. Past, present, future, man. We bear down, and we'll talk to y'all soon. Peace.